ain't gotta say it twice, no you hear me. Your boyfriend listen when I talk, cause I'm pretty. Cause I'm topic of attention when I walk in your city. Team full of family and they all coming with me. Dig me, I ain't gotta say it twice, no you hear me. What's going on, y'all? Mic check 1 2 1 2. It's your girl Bree Style back again for another episode of In the Booth with Bree Style. She is me, I am her, and this episode we're gonna call it Miss Morale. All right, so it's been a lot going on in hip hop. I don't know if you saw or if you heard, but kind of a pretty big deal happened over the last couple months. Right, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, hip hop beef we've seen in at least the last 20 years, right? Drake versus Kendrick Lamar. Um, the World Words was kind of like brewing for probably over a decade, which is actually incredible. Well, it's rare that we see something with so much buildup actually come through. Like for example, like being a big J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar fan, like we always heard rumors about them having a project together, a collab, and it never happened. We actually saw them two beef before we got the actual project from them. So in this world of hip hop, literally anything can happen, and the impossible definitely did. The battle went down. I won't spend too much time on it because every platform on earth has given you some perspective about who won. I, in my opinion, think it's very clear. I think it was a gentleman's sweep, if you want to call it that, a clean sweep in my opinion, but I'll give you the gentleman's sweep. To Kendrick Lamar, he handled that. I think Euphoria is one of the best diss songs we will ever hear. I know Not Like Us is getting all the shine right now because it's a hit and it's summertime, so it should. But I remember hearing Euphoria for the first couple times and thinking, man, we waited 10 years for this record and it's exactly what we hoped it would be. It's a perfect record, a perfect diss record. So again, I think Kendrick Lamar won. I think a lot of damage was done to Drake, and we're gonna talk about that um in depth on this episode here because we got to talk about the number one record being everybody on earth calling the biggest rap superstar out there a pedophile. Like I don't know if we've ever seen anything like this um ever, literally. So Not Like Us is a certified banger. It's a hit. It's from the moment you hear it. Shout out to DJ Mustard for giving us an iconic beat. Shout out to Kendrick Lamar for even having the gall to approach it like this. I don't think any of us ever expected to hear a Kendrick Lamar song sound like this, and it's absolutely incredible. But this episode is called Miss Morale, and we're talking about morality and things of that nature. Um, it's a little tricky because as much of a bop as it is, and as much as I love it, we are still calling somebody a pedophile, and that's a sobering thought. Like, especially, I'm in the club, I'm lit, I'm turned, and then it's like a minor. It's definitely crazy. It's definitely crazy, but I and I don't know if it's the Gemini in me, but I definitely believe that two things can be true. I think that song is a smash, and I think it's also a very uncomfortable piece of history that needed to happen, right? Um, I think that it being an attack on Drake is important because he is the biggest rap superstar that we've had in at least 15 years. I think, and this is my personal opinion, but you can hear it in the music. He's gotten to a point to where he's so big and so larger than life and such a superstar um that everything he does is polarizing. But I think you can hear him also saying it in his music that I think he thinks he's too good to be touched or too big to fall. And I think this battle and this beef was a great case in point um to the holes that we can poke in these artists that we support, that we push, that we give platforms to speak, and so on and so forth. So I think it being about Drake is important. I think um a lot of how he responded throughout the battle was very important. Um right now there's no prosecution or there's no that we know of cases being built on the allegations being made by Drake. But what we do have is a slew of internet information, Twitter threads, and you name it, of very, 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 very suspect behavior. Um And so when you have that paper trail of suspect behavior, and then you have someone with the platform and the power that a Kendrick Lamar has to say that you're a pedophile, but to say it in such a dope way that we can dance to it is absolutely unheard of. It's almost quite literally like a Boondocks episode. Like, we've never seen anything like this, but I think for the conversations to be had, it had to be delivered exactly like this. Because if Kendrick Lamar just does a sit down interview and says, "Hey, yo, Drake's a pedophile," everybody's gonna be like, "Well, that was random. Like, where did that come from? What the hell?" But the fact that it came within the course of entertainment, um, I think it garners even more ears for sure. Because people want to be entertained. But I think it's a little bit of the candy and the medicine kind of trick, where it's like, okay, I want y'all to eat these vegetables, um, but I gotta put this tub of ice cream right next to your plate to give you some kind of motivation to talk about what's actually going on, right? So it's like literally the Boondocks is probably the best way that I could think about it. It's like, man, this seems crazy as hell. I can't believe it's happening, but it's 1000% the black experience, and it's true and it's real. Um, and I think it's also important that the fallout that the record is having, right? So Cat Williams started off the year saying, "Man, a lot of big dogs in this game are gonna fall," and it proves to be truer and truer every day. Like, uh, man, it's so much aftermath, and it's really really unfortunate. But one phrase that I heard a long time ago is that if you're a woman and you're in love with hip hop, it's like being in love with your abuser. And as an artist now, I think it's even more so true. Um, because we can't sit here and pretend like hip hop as an art form has just been about the uplifting of women. It's never been that. Actually, it's pretty much been the opposite for the most part, right? So we're taking this art form that's been notoriously degrading toward women, and then we try or we attempt to police the people who are making such records that we love, that we party and that we dance to, right? So in the aftermath of Not Like Us, we've seen not just the artists be critiqued for their morality, but we've seen the people around hip hop also kind of being called to the forefront, and being held accountable for their actions, right? So two people in particular, both DJ Academics and Joe Budden, who are, if not the top two, definitely top three, um, hip hop culture representatives that we have as far as media. And they both, in the aftermath of Not Like Us and the beef, um, have seen their allegations resurfaced. They've seen an academics case, an actual case be brought against him. He's been sued for, I believe, I want to say rape and sexual assault. Forgive me if that's not absolutely correct, but I know it is one of the two. And then Joe Budden, um, if you're not familiar with him, has had a history of alleged abuse, I'll say, and then if not alleged abuse, then certainly just a history of manipulation and just not being a really quality person, to be honest. Um, but we see these two men in particular given the keys and the platforms to discuss and decide what's important to our culture. um we see them get to have these platforms while they're victims, just like the victims of artists who perpetrate the same types of activities. They have to go on about their days and about their lives while these people continue to, live and work and benefit off of the platforms and possibly the wrongdoings that they've done in the past. So I think it's a very important juncture in the game happening right now. I think that once again listeners have a deep 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 responsibility to choose who it is that they want to push and promote and champion, right? Like, don't get it confused. Like, now more than ever, the audience, the listener, the consumer, you decide who becomes a superstar, right? We ultimately collectively decided that Drake was a superstar because he was talented. Now we have the opportunity to decide if he stays a superstar. or if that's someone that we want to acknowledge, right? Again, there haven't been any um criminal cases brought against him, but there is, like I said, pretty substantial evidence. And so now we have to decide, okay, are we going to pretend that that didn't happen? Are we going to accept um strange lyrics from him moving forward, strange behavior from him moving forward? What do we do, right? And you know what I'm saying, academics and Joe Budden weren't the only two to be, you know what I'm saying, called down to the principal's office recently. And so kind of immediately after those two um had their wrongdoings brought to light, we witnessed Diddy, unfortunately, um abusing Cassie, which is unfortunate because a couple weeks ago, you know what I mean, we talked about her case being brought and how he settled pretty quickly. And you know, we were wishing the best for Cassie and her family. And then a couple weeks later, she has to relive her abuse through the video being put out. We don't even know if she wanted those videos to be put out. We don't know how she felt about the situation. I just want to say, you know what I'm saying, prayers to her and her family. Um, Prayers to all victims of domestic abuse. Um, and especially those who have to watch this beef with their wrongdoings in mind, because I'm sure it is conflicting, you know what I mean, how everybody can laugh and dance and joke about something that may hurt you deeply, and be a traumatic experience, for you to talk about and even to relive through second or third person. So it's very tricky. I think there's a reckoning going on. But I think we're going to have to make decisions. A lot of us, and myself as a consumer, myself as an artist, you know what I mean? That's something I've been thinking about day by day. Like, what types of artists are you going to make music with? Are you going to be able to thoroughly vet this person enough to where you don't make music with them and then find out later, oh my God, this person is an awful human being? Because, right, we just don't know, right? We really don't know sometimes. You hear a song that you like and you have no idea who that person is. For example, Million Dollar Baby, #2 song in the country right now, is doing numbers. I don't know a single thing about Tommy Richmond. He could be the nicest guy on earth. He could be an absolute asshole. I probably will never know, right? But once we do know, and you know, and have more information, if you know better, you can do better, right? So if I find out that Tommy Richmond is, and I'm not saying he is, just an abuser, an awful person, a manipulator, a narcissist, what have you, I can then decide to support his music or not, right? And so that's one of the tricky things for me as an artist, um because every situation is not the same, right? And I'll give a personal example, personal testimony. um I listened to R. Kelly as much as the next person, right? Before, you know what I'm saying, all his wrongdoing started coming to light again. Mind you, I was a kid when a lot of what he was going on, a lot of what he was doing was going on. So I remember when the um the unfortunate sex tapes with him with a child. I remember when that came out, and I remember how the black community acted. I remember it being something of a, oh, have you seen and not hey, this is child abuse. I remember that. I remember the Boondocks episode of where it's saying like, yo, R. Kelly's a horrible person, but we not gonna care because he keeps giving us hits. Like, I watched that happen. And then I watched the was it Surviving R. Kelly joint? I don't remember what platform that came out on. I don't even know why I watched it. Um but it was extremely traumatizing for me, to the point where I was willing to let go of his music. I don't listen to R. Kelly's music anymore. I haven't since then. But it was a choice that I had to make. And for me personally, it got to the point where I would hear his music and it would just be sickening. Like, it would be disgusting. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to support it. I didn't want it anywhere near anywhere around me, and I still don't to this day. But there are obviously people out there who feel otherwise, right? And so conversely, you take that situation and you look at like a Chris Brown, someone that we know, um his abuse isn't alleged. We have a lot of evidence of him being abusive, a lot of evidence of him being manipulative. Um, and that's not something that just started and stopped with Rihanna, right? And so I bring him up to say that I still listen to his music. I'm not such an avid fan as I was when I was a kid, but I'm not gonna sit here and pretend to be holier than thou. Um, if a Chris Brown song slaps, I probably still have heard it, and it doesn't make me feel good to say, but it is the truth. And it's me kind of acknowledging the two sides of the coin. Like, hey, like, why do I feel different about the two? Both are abusers. Why do I choose not to listen to one and choose to listen to the other? And I really don't have an answer. I really don't. And the conclusion that I keep coming to is that music is made by people and people are never perfect. Um, but I do think we have a a real responsibility to start um being a little more cautious about who we create as superstars. You know what I mean? Like I said, people make superstars. So I think now that we're in a situation where okay, we're demanding a little bit more of our entertainers, right? We're also expecting them to be good people, people that we would want to know, people that we want to hang out with. So we've got to figure out how to one, get those people in, and then two, get all the horrible people who are so deeply ingrained into the culture out. I think that's a harder part than anything, right? There's a reason that Diddy was able to have such a successful career in life, right? There's a reason why Joe Budden still has a platform because the people around them who are powerful choose to keep them powerful. Um and like I said, I think the listener falls a lot lower on that totem pole, but it is a choice to press play or not, and I think that's something that we all have to reckon with. Um, I'm not saying that I have all the answers, especially as a rapper now. It's even more confusing because it's like, man, I want to sample this artist, but they might be a horrible person. For example, I want to sample a couple Mystical records. Turns out he's a horrible person. I didn't know that. Do I not sample those records because Mystical's on them? What if it's a Neptune's beat, but Mystical hopped on it, but I just want to use the Neptune sample? Am I now looped in with Mystical? It's really, really tricky. And I think, um, like I said, I hate to say that it's a case to case basis, but it feels like that way because, like I said, music is made by people. People are not perfect. I'm not perfect. I don't think I'm going to make the right decision every time, but I do know and understand that I have a responsibility to myself, to victims of abuse, to just human beings. Um, to try to be the best person I can be. And if that's limiting the support of people who are incredibly talented, you know what I mean? So be it. If I become a huge superstar, and I just start behaving like a complete asshole, I would hope that my fans and followers will hold me accountable and let me know that they're not rocking with that anymore. You know what I mean? Even if they had me at the top of the mountain, yesterday, you know what I'm saying? The next day you can fall from grace if you're a horrible human being. So I think that's something that we all gonna have to reckon with. Again, man, follow me on Instagram. I want to continue the conversation. I want to hear what you got to say about it. Follow me on Instagram at brestyle.mp3. That's BRESTYLE.mp3. On Twitter as well at Bree_style. Let's keep the conversation going. Once again, I am Bree Style. Again, my debut project is out next month. I'm super, super excited about it. I do have a date. I'll announce it here June 12th. First time I'm letting that information go. R and Bree is hitting the streets June 12th. I'm super excited about it, man. We're going to have some merch. We're going to have some events coming up. I can't wait to lock in with you all. But this has been episode 6 of In the Booth with Bree Style. Until next time, checking out.
I ain't gotta say it twice, know you hear me. Your boyfriend listen when I talk, cause I'm pretty. Topic of attention when I walk in your city. Team full of family and they all coming with me. Dig me, I ain't gotta say it twice, know you hear me. Your boyfriend listen when I talk, cause I'm pretty.